Salutations. I wanted to go over the John Titor story and connect that to some more factual time technology. All right, we've gone over quite a bit of time technology on the YouTube channel. If you go to the playlist channel and actually look at the channel and actually look under time technologies and time control technologies, it's on there. There's several videos on there. All right, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over different time technologies as much as we're going to talk individually about this John Titor story, which most people are familiar with right now. All right, but what I find interesting about this is going back to whatever year that was. Gosh, it was like, what was it, 98, something like that? That everybody keeps saying, you know, the Art Bell was the one that John Titor was talking to him. Actually, that's not correct. There was a website, and I followed all this back then because I followed Art Bell all the time, but it wasn't him. Art Bell would open up a time traveler line on Coast to Coast AM and on Dreamland sometimes. He'd do that a couple of times a year. For years he did that. So you had a lot of people calling in and saying there were time travelers with those. And the people that really stuck out to me was one that called himself, what was it, Michael from the year 2037, and another individual called himself Single 7. They were just kind of interesting when you heard their accounts, and especially when they described the type of technology that they said they came back here with. Anyway, back to the John Titor story. John Titor was posting messages on a website, and then later Art Bell found about it and started reporting it, and that's when it really blew up. But I watched that website, whatever it was, that was a long time ago. But what he had on there is John Titor, this gentleman said he came from the year 2034, and that he had, was it 2036, 2034, 2036, that he came back here to get a different type of an IBM, a primitive IBM, to take it to the future because they were having some type of a decoding problem with the IBM and basic, I guess, algorithms of computer languages or something. But anyway, he said he came back here in a Corvette in a time device that he called a gravity distortion unit. Hold on. I don't want to say it wrong, so I've already flashed a picture of it, so everybody knows. Gravity distortion time displacement unit. Okay, and he actually gave a patent for that. And this is where it takes us into something that is very relative, is that John had said on these posts that he came from the future and that he had been financed to get here by GE. He said that there was an organization named CERN, which we now know as the Hadron Collider, which I don't believe it was quite in existence at that time, or was maybe at its very fundamental stages at that point. He said that they were going to inadvertently discover time travel. And at that point, when they discovered this, they were announced that GE was going to patent it. And the actual patent that you just saw on here, you'll see it again at the end. He said it was from GE, and it's got a 2034 patent on it, the year 2034. I find that very interesting. And then when looking at this unit itself, which he gave diagrams of, he showed it in the Corvette, all these things I've shown you here in this video, it was very interesting. That unit especially caught my attention, all right? The reason why I say that is if we start looking at real-time science, I've tried to flash some real-time sciences up here, but specifically the one that is time-warped fields, which can be generated through inertial drag, which is actually a heavy body, which around it starts distorting gravity and time actually around it. That's inertial drag. That's got a lot to do with time travel and the generation of time-warped fields. All right, this machine appears to generate time-warped fields, and I believe that's how he was able to get to and from, and that's very, very valid. Okay, especially when we start going over into more factual things and looking at the real time control technology on the private market. I've been talking about that a long time. Look at what Dr. Wang is doing, what Dr. Mallet is doing, Ron Mallet from the University of Connecticut. Look at those two individuals and check out Richard Louis Anderson. They're all talking about time control technology. Heck, David Louis Anderson, the Anderson Institute, which is kind of hard to research that place, but they've got a time warp field generator that I put up there, and it's absolutely fascinating. It's a totally different concept for generating time fields and what we're familiar with. And you know, they're trying to get a patent on that if they haven't gotten it. So this is real technology that's in the private industry that we're not exposed to because it's unregulated. And we don't even notice stuff like that until it comes into our house under into our lives under MRIs or things that are in the hospital, things that are medical. Those are where they really get into our life there, but they're not in our household yet. So we're not paying attention to it. This is real stuff that's going on. So if you take that type of time control technology that actually exists now, and then start kind of coupling it with what John Titor said, and actually what he's showing those devices, I think it's fascinating. I started talking to people about this. I've talked to one or two people that used to work at GE, and one lady that follows Floorburn, fascinating lady. I won't say her name on here and throw her out like that, but she said she worked there and she provided some credentials, and then she said that she worked in the laboratory there. And in some parts of that lab, there were very unusual experiments going on. So that sounds like time experiments to me. If anybody's got the money to do it, GE can do it. Because Lord knows their stock ain't doing that good right now. Oh, that thing's down to about $13.50. We'll talk about that another day. Anyway, anyway, back to what he said as far as where the patent came from. Now, CERN has become a big deal because a lot of people think that, oh, that Hadron Collider is going to devour the world, it's going to create a black hole. Nonsense, they don't have the power to do that, all right? And there's been Hadron Colliders, used to be called cyclotrons. They've been around for a long time. And by no means is CERN or Ferma the first ones of those, all right? Check out the Cosmotron. That was back in the 60s. That was a cyclotron, a large one, the Cosmotron. Anyway, so what I think should be observed with that is the fact that some of these exotic particles that they're creating in these Hadron Colliders that maybe exist only a millisecond, it's some of those certain exotic particles that, more than what my knowledge is, I'm not a scientist like that, but I know there's enough of them to where they could be harnessed to power real type of time machines and real warp drives and things of that nature, all right? So anyway, crossing this over, because I want to always put some of this to my personal experiences. You remember on YouTube I showed you the experience I had. This was the first ship that I saw with my mother, all right? And I believe that is a time ship. And I told you why when we went over this in the YouTube videos, all right? The fact that it had these windows on it, all right? And I believe they were holographic projectors. And when I was on board that craft in a bilocated finite deal, these guys were there, and this is the holographic deal. I'm seeing myself down there because I was bilocated, and the fact that there were these Nordics there, you already know I had to deal with that. But nonetheless, I believe these are time travelers, and I don't believe that was the only species that was on that craft. Anyway, take that over back to the John Titor thing. There was a lot of description. There was a gentleman on Facebook and stuff claiming he was John Titor, and that woman Sam Muggsy told me, oh, John Titor too, I'm talking to him. I said, what? I never even heard of that, and a lot of what she says is questionable anyway. But that when I start looking at that, I start looking at this material, and this guy was saying it was ridiculous. It was not conforming to what the original John Titor, and anyone that saw that original thing like I did, it didn't jive at all. It was not jiving. And so people were taking shots at a friend of mine, Jason Quitt, when I mentioned that, and he had written a book over the John Titor thing, and he came forward and said, yeah, that guy wound up being a fake. He didn't know at first. Jason does good work, so I don't want people really, putting him down and saying like he did something wrong there. He still was trying to delve into the time control technology, and that is very worthy. And I met him. He's a nice guy. He really is. So anyway, I just want to say, but there's a lot of hoaxers out there that can catch a lot of people. I mean, that's just what's going on right now. This whole field is bringing people to it that have questionability, questionable integrity, excuse me, and also questionable motives. All right, we're seeing that a lot. But right now, anyway, going back to this, John Titor. Something else to check out when dealing with time control technology is superluminal propagation of data. which is basically sending data backwards in time. They're doing a lot of that. That's a lot of time technology that we're seeing being exercised right now. So keep that in mind. That really is most of the things I wanted to talk about that. It's just as far as look at the real-time control technologies I put up here, all right, and kind of correlate that to John Titor. There's a sign that you can see the machine on there. One is a picture of it in the Corvette. Another is the diagram that was with the patent that was provided with it, all right? And you'll see both of those on there, and also the machine itself sitting there. And I think that's probably not a joke, all right? And if you want to go on Art Bell, I think on YouTube you can go on Art Bell, type in time travelers, and check for the one that's the time traveler for 2037. It's not very long. The guy called in twice. Very interesting what he calls his time device. I believe he calls it a dimensional layered vehicle, interdimensional vehicle. He gives a very specific name for it twice. I thought it was interesting nonetheless, okay? So check that out, and just check out maybe some of those that to see where they're real examples of time travelers, because I believe it's happening all the time. We're seeing time travelers all the time, like these guys in this ship right here. This ship right here, we're seeing ships. I'm always looking for ships like this, because to me it screams that this is probably a time ship. Potentially the windows. A lot of these craft I've been on don't have windows. That's because they're living being. They're sentient organic beings. Okay, there's a reason for that. Anyway, enough of that. So perhaps there's a lot of time travelers we're seeing right now, and they're just like that in the sky, and they're observing and not really doing anything to quote unquote break the prime directive. You know what I'm saying? You know? So it's food for thought, if nothing else. But the fact that maybe there are people skipping our timelines and things like that is an issue and a reality. So thank you for everybody on Patreon here. You're actually watching these videos have helped me to do a couple others on YouTube. No, they're nothing like here. They're not as long. I'm not going to go as in depth, and I won't respond to people on YouTube like here. So, hey, I want to say thank you to everyone who's become a subscriber and a Patreon to my Patreon channel here. You have actually helped me to make some other videos for YouTube. No, they're not as long on YouTube, and they're going to be much more brief, and I won't respond to people on YouTube very much at all. But on here, I will respond to you. And if there's something you want me to talk about, do a specific video over, since I don't really do live feeds yet, I will do it. So just ask me what it is, please. Let me know. I'll talk about it. I'll type about it, but I'll also do a video about it. And I want to say thank you, because a few of you have had enough faith to follow me over here, and I'm trying to make sure that each of these videos is at least worth your $5. So I'll talk to you soon. Peace.